few of the things on the infrastructure, energy, road, talents, and our views as a KPMG, as a global firm, investments into the West Bengal and why are we doing it, and would be very happy to have more detailed discussion with you if any of these excite you, that how the regulatory matters and all your operational setup, initial hindrances could be taken care of. And I very much look forward to have you in West Bengal, and thank you very much.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. Dasgupta, for your wonderful presentation. And people who have come from the Middle East and all other parts of the world would be very much interested in knowing two different and aspects of your assistance, your firm's consulting assistance in single window, understanding it and walkthrough, and also your ability to answer their specific question when pertaining to an industry where cost-driven approach is taken. You see, the entire Middle East is witnessing also a population growth, and there are population growth to the tune of 15 million, which is supposed to be adding to the population in the next 7 to 10 years. I know, I am from UAE, and population is expected to grow from 8 million to 12 million. So there is a demand for foodstuffs, there will be demand for travel, tourism. So these are some of the significant aspects which West Bengal, which has now the possible destination. Of course, we all know it is very well connected. We are sons of the soil, we know much more about West Bengal, but there will be people from the abroad who may have some concerns regarding how do you network, how do we get ourselves to. So there is a possibility and a lot of work which could go there. I am sure Bengal Chamber of Commerce and your firm would rise to the occasion. Now may I request Mr. Sudeep Datto, Senior Vice President, IL and AWS Infrastructure Development Corporation, to give his presentation about this subject matter. Thank you.
Speed up my presentation as fast as possible. My name is Sudeep Datta. I represent a company called ILNFS Infrastructure Development Corporation Limited. ILNFS, as some of you may be knowing, is basically a national infrastructure development organization. We are currently implementing projects worth about 40,000 crores. The Delhi-Mumbai Industrial Corridor that was being referred by Ambarish. Till the other day, we were 45% equity shareholding of that company, with the government holding the rest. In fact, the DMIC has already targeted and already planned around 25 new cities to be coming up in the next 5 to 7 years. And I'm sure that when the Bombay-Calcutta corridor comes, we'll also have such plans. We are also implementing a very large international financial hub in Gujarat, over 800 acres of land, again with the partnership with Government of Gujarat, where Government of Gujarat has 50%, we have 50%. And that project is expected to get investment of 70,000 crores. In West Bengal, we have started working very closely with the Government of West Bengal for the last five years. We have currently taken a pretty significant equity as well as financial position on the Bengal Aerotropolis project, which is the new airport city that is happening in Durgapur. And I think it's a reflection of the changing perception of the state that the first private airport in the country is in a place called Durgapur in Andal, which I think many people in West Bengal may not also have known. But the project is being implemented 100% by a private sector funding, private sector partnership. The government has only a small equity stake. It has facilitated the land acquisition, but as far as the financial viability of the project is concerned, the airport and the city side infrastructure, it is a completely financially viable project. This is our parentage. We are basically owned by various financial institutions, and we were set about 25 years back. And in West Bengal, we have a company which is called Bengal Urban Infrastructure Development Budget, which is a 50% joint venture of the government and ILNFS. And through this, we are trying to work out on two aspects, which have been a concern of investors for a long period of time. A is transparency in policies, and B is in infrastructure. And I think through this presentation, I'll skip the first part of the presentation because it will be a lot of repetition of what has already been told. But we've been seeing that there are two major concerns that international investors have. One is the transparency in terms of policies, and the second is a very long-standing perception of West Bengal as a very poor state in terms of infrastructure development. And I think I would try to address at least what has been happening in the past few years in West Bengal. In terms of policy, I think Ambrish has captured quite a lot. There's been a huge amount of policy efforts that have been made, which is basically an attempt to bring in level playing field for the investors. And for example, the public-private partnership, the PPP policy that was announced a year back, it has come out after studying best practices not only in the country but in international practices. It's a small start. It's really nothing great in the sense, but it is like when you are investing in the state, you know what is the kind of agreements you want to sign, what is the kind of support that you will be getting. Similarly, almost all the sectors, the tourism, the industry, the IT, the electronics have all come up with their own policy, which very clearly charts out the investment and the regulatory environment. I'll just skip through these because those have been amply covered during the morning session. But contrary to perceptions globally, West Bengal is still outperforming, at least in terms of the agribusiness. And it's outperforming the country, and I think in terms of investments in urban infrastructure, in terms of government investment in infrastructure, I think it is also very, very strongly competitive as far as the other states is concerned. We are not getting as much private sector investment as we would have expected, but I think that is where the government comes up and says that, over the years we've been being told that the government is not investing in infrastructure and therefore the private sector investment is not coming in. The last 3 to 4 years there have been tremendous investments in the government infrastructure, and I think it's time that that will that will bring about private sector investment. One of the major strengths of West Bengal has been its surplus power. It's a completely turnaround for something that has been there for 15 years now. Now, even the kind of industrial projection and the kind of very optimistic and ambitious industrial production that the government industrial production growth that the government is envisaging, the surplus power is still going to be there for the next 10-15 years. So it's not been planned on the fact that there is less industries and therefore power is excess. Even if you take the maximum investment growth that the government has projected, the power will continue to be surplus based on the projects that have already been announced. West Bengal, of course, continues to be a very strong agrarian economy, and that remains the strength of the state, and I think that is something that every investor can leverage on. A very strong and talented workforce. In fact, we have one of the largest educational number of institutions. We have IIT and IIMs in terms of international institutions. The engineering colleges that we have in Kolkata and in Durgapur and now in Haldia are very world class, and we have been supplying workforces all over the country. We have in the last few years, in the last 4 to 5 years, the government has been concentrating on developing industrial parks, which basically means that a package of land is taken over by the government, so it is government acquired land, so the land is not an issue. The common infrastructure is provided by the government, and common facilities like R&D or testing and those sort of things are also a part of the park infrastructure. So somebody who comes and invests does not have to invest on common infrastructure, and there's a lot of duplication expenses. There are a large number of parks which are already operational, and these are a list of this. Of course, the presentation will remain, and and if you can see the number of people who have invested, there are quite a few of the parks which are being successfully implemented. These are parks which are already operational. There is, again, as Ambarish was pointing out, a lot of media reports on the fact that the land availability, or rather the non-availability of land, is affecting industrial investment. Yes, land availability for large-scale projects may be an issue, but in terms of the medium and small-scale industries, there are a huge number of parks which have already been announced and which have land available across the sector. If you see the sectors, it's from gems and jewelry, garments, food processing, engineering, power, cement, plastic and steel, and virtually covers almost all the sectors that the government is, where land is readily available, and most of these parks, the price of the land and the terms and conditions in the land is being allotted is available at the WBIDC site. I would just like to share some of the projects that we have done and in partnership with the government of West Bengal, and some of the projects which we have done ourselves as a reflection of what has been happening. One of the things that is happening in India and again in Kolkata is that there is a huge amount of urbanization and growth. About in the next, from now on to 2050, India expects to add about 1 billion population in the urban sector. Those are very staggering numbers. And the cities of Kolkata and Haldia, Siliguri, Durgapur, Asansol are going to be the cities which are going to have a major influx of people who are going to come in from all parts of the country. And therefore, we feel that urban infrastructure is going to be one of the largest investment opportunity in the country. In fact, there's been a recent study of McKinsey where it tried to, where it identified which are the largest cities that would be coming up in the next 15 years, and Kolkata was among the 3 top cities within India, and also on the second after China, which would have a major urban growth. And to facilitate that, over the last 7 years, about 5,200 crores of projects have been taken up in the urban infrastructure sector project by ourselves, and another 5,000 crores by the government on its own. So there are about 10,000 crores of investment has already gone in projects in, and these have been concentrated on the Kolkata urban area and the Asansol urban area. And this covers diverse sectors as water, traffic, transportation, sewerage, drainage, and basically, and it has a tremendous opportunity for private sector to leverage on these government investments and invite. We just had 1 or 2 projects. We had one project in Haldia where a Malaysian company came in and took an investment. We are just about to close 2 urban infrastructure projects on a 100% private sector partner investment, which is going to be announced in the next couple of days. But urban infrastructure in terms of planners, for design, as for technology, as well as for investment, is a tremendous opportunity for investors. And we are going into a situation where the growth is being done on a very planned scale, where development plans are being developed by these cities. So the urban infrastructure that is coming are not sporadic as it is thought. They are a part of a pretty well strategy. In Haldia, we are building an international trade center, which is almost ready. But more importantly, we have just taken 200 acres of land in association with MMTC, where we are setting up an international cargo hub along with MMTC on a 50% joint venture. Haldia had a problem of environment because of an environment embargo. Investments were not happening to the extent it should have, but that has been lifted now, and immediately we expect quite a few investments to come. We've been one of the first to invest in about 100 crores already. We will be investing 800 crores in that international cargo in Haldia. Which would also include all sorts of commodities. We are helping the government set up a new township in a place called Baripur on a 500 acres township plot. 150, about 30% of that is going to come through private sector investment. We've just completed one industrial park over 900 acres for developing of foundry parks. About first phase of around 500 acres have just been completed, and about 60 to 70 players have actually taken land, and they are on the verge of starting their process. In Newtown, I think to ensure that there is a quality of life for people coming in, we have just taken up a project which has been implemented by over 500 acres have been built for creating an eco park. Basically with the idea to improve the quality of life of the city. The Newtown and the Salt Lake are places where IT is given a lot of encouragement, and therefore to make them attractive for people to come and stay. 500 acres of land and at today's price, something like about 40 crores per land is the prevailing price. So it's a staggering amount of land that has been left by the government for developing a green eco park. We are also developing a financial hub in Newtown, Calcutta, where about 12 bankers have already come in. There are 12 large bankers who have taken plots in the financial hub and who will be developing the same. And again, in Durgapur, there's an 1800 township that ILNFS, along with local promoters and Changi Airport Singapore, is developing this. We are developing 1800 acres of land, and this township we are looking at partnership for developing hospitality, for developing hospitals and educational institutions. The airport is already completed. We are waiting for a transmission line to be shifted out so that the flights can start. At this point of time, helicopter services are being operational from Calcutta to Durgapur, but the tests have been completed. So the airport functionally is ready, but there are some issues regarding regarding transmission lines to be shifted, but on the city side infrastructure, we have started housing out about 150 acres, and we're looking at people who can come in and partner us in setting up hotels, setting up schools, setting up colleges, which could be iconic development and which could help the other housing to come. The location of that place is extremely strategic. It is very close to the Jharkhand border. It's also very close to, it's about 20 kilometers from Asansol, 20 kilometers from Durgapur. These are two major industrial belts with a lot of housing growth that is happening. It's also very close to Dhanbad. So we're looking at that as one growth point. The government of West Bengal is a part of the project. Along with, we are also looking at setting up electronic hardware as a component, as a product. We are trying to encourage investments in electronic hardware. And just to give an idea of the kind of parks that we are looking at, this is one park that is just a plan has been sanctioned, and Government of India is giving in funds to create the common infrastructure. This is the kind of plant, and if you can see that this part we are giving the entire support facilities, which includes includes housing for workers, includes the R&D facilities, includes the marketing offices, hospitals, medicals. These are being prepared by the government, and the investors can come and virtually plug and play. Start. And Ambarish was talking about tourism as one very important aspect of investment in West Bengal. West Bengal has tremendous potential as far as tourism is concerned, but this has not been happening because of the fact that the tourism infrastructure has not been developed to the extent it should have. We have just taken up one 208 acres project in a place called Gajoldoba in North Bengal, and we went to investors, including international investors. A lot of people came to the site, they visited the site, but they came up with issues like the non-availability of the infrastructure. So we went back to the finance minister and to the finance secretary, and they have now invested, or they have now sanctioned 100 crores of fund to build up the common infrastructure. The common infrastructure will be ready in the next few months, and this is a very, very, very holistic industrial park where we are actually developing a lake in the center. We are developing a hospitality training center. We are developing a small housing. We are developing places for 5-star, 4-star, 3-star budget hotels, and the entire common infrastructure is to be developed by the government. Whereas in normal concession agreement, there is a very, very wishy-washy clause about infrastructure, say that government will try to give infrastructure. The concession agreement in this project clearly states that the government will provide these infrastructure as a part of their scope. Similarly, we are doing one project in Sundarban, where we have taken up around 45 acres of land, which is right across the river reserve forest. Sundarban has been again a place where there has been tremendous amount of potential, but people have not had very high quality places to stay. So we are trying to build up a place which is right on the border of the reserve forest. We've taken about 45 acres just outside the reserve forest, so that there are no issues about forest development. And here again the government is putting in investments to develop the common infrastructure, and this is again being offered to the private sector. The name of that is Jharkhali. It's been a little bit misspelled. What I would like to say is that what I would like to mention through this presentation is that over the last 5 to 7 years, there has been tremendous amount of investments that has been taken up by the government and the government agencies in creating infrastructure. Unfortunately, this has not come up, or it has not been publicized to the extent that it should have, considering the kind of change that has taken place, the kind of infrastructure investments that is to take place say 5 or 7 years, and the kind of development that has taken place the last 4 or 5. It's a reflection of the government's desire and conviction to actually invest in infrastructure and actually make West Bengal a place which is safer for investment. So it's not all about marketing, etc. It's also about developing ground infrastructure. And I think in the next 2 to 3 years, once these projects have been taken, you'll find West Bengal completely changed. And we would hope that the state will go back to a position where it was many years back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dato. It was a very explicit and very well informed to our overseas delegates. We now request Mr. Shomit Roy, Chairman and Managing Director of RISE Group, to come forward and give his views and presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, all delegates from different parts of West Bengal, India and abroad. At present, India is one of the fastest growing education hubs in the world. Education is critical for India to become economically and socially developed. Quality education is the key to inclusive growth and empowerment of large sector of populations. In India, education has been the passport to opportunity and prosperity. According to the census, total literacy rate in India is 74.04%. India will need 1.2 million more teachers. 546 million people under the age of 25 years lies the potential in education sectors. By 2020, to increase the percentage of students going in higher education from present 12.4% to 30%, India needs 800 more university and another 35,000 college in different parts of India. According to the HRD estimate, India's education sector needs investment worth rupees 200 USD millions in the next 10 years. West Bengal is the emerging education hub of India and Asia. History of the state, a state which housed 5 Nobel laureates: Rabindranath Tagore, famous poet and philosopher; Mother Teresa founded the Missionaries of Charity, the home for the distressed; Amartya Sen, famous economist; Sir Ronald Russell studied from the School of Tropical Medicines, Kolkata; C.V. Raman studied in Calcutta University, Kolkata. Who are the sons of the soils? Raja Ram Mohan Rai, pioneer of modern Indian Renaissance; Ishwar Vidyasagar, founder of the education of modern India; Swami Vivekananda, regarded as a patriot saint. The culture and the people, irrespective of the caste, religion and the color people of Kolkata, live peacefully. Safety and security. The state is politically stable. The ruling government has an absolute majority in the assembly, panchayat and Jila Parishad. Famous institute. One of the world famous university, Vishwa Bharati, followed by the Temple Institute like IIT Kanpur and IIM Kolkata. The intellectual resource and the presence of academicians, those who are recognized and acknowledged by the world. The governance, good governance through expert administrator in the state, and e-governance which helps to locate land, conversion and mutation. Scope of the state, total geographical area 88,752 square kilometers. 3 international corridors, borders, nations, Nepal, Bhutan and Bangladesh. Kolkata is the corridor of Southeast Asia. Total population 91.3 millions. Population rank 4 out of 28 states. Literacy rate is 77.08%. Number of students appeared for the class 10 board examination 10 lakhs approximately. Number of students appeared for the class 12 board examinations 7.5 lakhs, one of the exceptional numbers in our state, other state in India. Number of students appeared for graduation is 4.5 lakhs. So what will be the focus? Polytechnic colleges, 70 numbers in stake, 17,185 by 2016, 40 new and increase intake to 30,000. Vocational training, intake 2,13,000 at 3,500 vocational training center, increased to 3,25,000 by 2016. So need more vocational training center. To achieve the national target of 30% gross enrollment ratio by 2020, the state need to create over 4 lakhs new seats in undergraduate and postgraduate courses. Nationally, the private sector is playing an important role in the expansion of the higher education facilities. 88 private universities, 94% of the total in the country have come up in the last 5 years. The new policy of the present government for setting up private university in the state, anyone can plan to invest. At present, although the number of private engineering colleges in the West Bengal are sufficient, there are only a few medical colleges considering the large population of West Bengal. It is urgent to open more medical colleges. Considering the staggering requirement of the funds for achieving this goal, the state government efforts needs to be supplemented by the private sectors in creation of the required infrastructure in the higher education sectors. Recently, Shahara plans to invest 2,400 crores in West Bengal for medical hospitals and medical college. More than 12,000 acres of land, bank of government for industrial and education purpose are ready. The state's education sector is likely to attract an investment of rupees 1,200 crores over the next 3 years, as said by the ex-chairman of West Bengal Council of Higher Education, Mr. Sugata Marji, and it is vetted by the Education Minister, Sri Bratto Bosu. The state will have 3 private universities by the next academic sessions and will make room an additional 1.5 lakh seats in the affiliated college. This is the scenario, but we all believe that all the students that this state is more talented than any state of India. If you want to try to find top 2 students to 3 students in every college or schools in all over West India, you will find at least education field. Lots of teachers are there here, is very much talented. So I think this is the place, proper place for the investment in education field. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ray, for your wonderful speech and your presentation. We definitely underline and understand that West Bengal has a lot of talent which can be nurtured and presented to the world. May I now request Mr. N.R. Datta, Chairman cum Managing Director of Camella Group. His presentation will be Scope of NRI Investments in West Bengal, Case Study, Camella Group. Please come. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My presentation is on a case study. It's my group, Camellia Group. Steady growth along with fiscal consolidations has been the hallmark of the state economy basically. In today's presentations, I would take the opportunity to showcase various aspects and scope of NRI investment in West Bengal through our case study. Camellia Group started operations in the year 1990 with the development of real estate. Today, it has grown into one of the largest business conglomerates in Eastern India with diversified presence in the field of education, hospitality, real estate, aviation industry as well as health. Camellia Group is the leader in the landscape